Hello and welcome back to I Completed 80s Music, your ever-long tour of the best decade in pop music, one song at a time. I'm your host, the 80s Mixtaper, and today we dive into the back six of Playlist 27 as we step into August 1981. In this episode, we continue the story arcs of Kim Wilde, Randy Crawford and UB40. But we also introduce Classix Nouveaux, the fascinating but now controversial story of Aneka, and then we end the episode as we introduce one of the biggest bands ever, U2. As always, due to copyright rules, we can't actually play the songs on the pod, but if you go into the episode description, there you will find playlists for both Spotify and Apple Music, or if you use some other service, a full track listing so you can play along with the pod. I have a listen as I go for a walk, so it's easy to flip between the two. Anyway, let's get back to the music. Last time we caught up with Kim Wilde, her single Checkered Love had just climbed to number 4 on the UK charts in the spring of 1981, a follow-up to the explosive Kids in America that had introduced her as a 20-year-old newcomer with a voice that cut through the new wave clutter. By July, her self-titled debut album arrived on RAK Records, a collection of 10 tracks all penned by her father Marty, the 1950s rock and roller behind hits like Endless Sleep, and produced by her younger brother Ricky, then just 22. The album peaked at number 3 in the UK, blending synth-driven pop with rock edges, and featuring session work from the symphonic rock outfit The Enid, who laid down the foundations in their own studio for a modest fee. From that album came Water on Glass, the third single, released on July the 31st, 1981. This is track 8, Playlist 27. Backed by the non-album B-side Boys, also written by Marty and Ricky, Water on Glass marked a pivot from the album's earlier hits. While Kids in America roared with suburban rebellion and Checkered Love explored relational push-pull, you say everything's alright, I say nothing can go right, as the lyrics put it, the new track delved into something more internal, more unsettling, tinnitus, the persistent ringing or rushing sound in the ears with no external source. Marty Wilde explained the concept in a 1981 Fan Club magazine. The song is basically about a rare minority of people who continually hear sound in their head. It's a real disease for which there is no cure, a factual thing rather than a fictitious one. The lyrics open with a vivid portrayal. Cascading down, there's a sound vaporizing into vision. It's a sound in my head that I feel and it shuts me in a prison. The pre-chorus pleads, say it won't last, say it will pass. Always that sound in my brain, can you hear it? Before the chorus builds into a repetitive urgency. Water on glass, running down again. Water on glass, that sound. Water on glass, running down again. Help me. The sound of running water's coming down. The second verse evokes a hallucinatory flow. Dancing away like the lights on a moving coloured river. Sounds in my head seem to run and again I feel a shiver. Looping back to the same trapped refrain with an instrumental break underscoring the relentless drip. Ricky's production mirrors this, shimmering synth slide over a tight beat, creating an aural illusion of liquid pattering on a window, though the single version differs slightly from the album cut with a more mirrored sound mix for emphasis. On the charts, Water on Glass entered the UK singles chart at number 41, and it climbed steadily, hitting number 11 in its fourth week and spending 8 weeks in the top 75 before dropping off on September the 19th, 4 in the top 20, 7 in the top 40 overall. In Ireland, it fared better at number 10, but it didn't crack major markets elsewhere. A later US radio push landed it at number 53 on Billboard's Top Tracks chart on May the 15th, 1982, marking Wilde's first American chart entry. Critics noted the shift. David Hepworth, writing in Smash Hits, praised it as the album's standout. What's the best track on the album? This one. Okay, Whack It Out, single-shaped. Ricky's deck is as full of well-practiced tricks as ever. Shimmering synth slip and slide round a knuckleful of beat, while Kim's perfectly detached vocal drags the chorus in like a trooper. Eric Chapp, in a contemporary review, highlighted its 60s girl group mannerisms and spectre-esque drum sound, likening Wilde's delivery to a blend of Dusty Springfield and Debbie Harry. The Chronicle in Australia called it reminiscent of some of the early 60s rock. Wilde performed it live on Top of the Pops in August 1981 with her band, a clip that now stands in for the absent promo video. She brought it back for a 1982 debut tour and later outings, including the 1983 Catch Tour and a 2003 Copenhagen show. The track's enduring pull shows in later remixes. In 2020, Cherry Pop issued the Project K, Project Kim version, an Eddie Said and Luke Nutley extended mix, and an instrumental, a 2024 Project K soundtrack edition followed. Covers by acts like Haley and the Crushers and Heimat Gluck keep it circulating in niche scenes. For Wilde, then navigating sudden fame after art school and a foundation course at St Albans College of Art and Design, Water on Glass captured the family's collaborative core. Marty's lyrical depth, Ricky's studio polish, while hinting at the vulnerabilities beneath the pop sheen. It wasn't the blockbuster of her prior releases, but in an era of synth gloss, it offered a rawer glimpse into the sounds that linger. Next up, we're back with one of my father's favourite female solo artists, Randy Crawford. We last heard You Might Need Somebody in episode 24, that shimmering plea from her 1981 album Secret Combination, which climbed to number 11 on the UK singles chart, pulling listeners into its quiet urgency. Now, from the same Warner Brothers release, comes her take on Rainy Night in Georgia, the second single drawn from those sessions. Issued in June 1981 as a 7-inch vinyl, it entered the UK singles chart and reached number 18 in September 1981. This is our track 9 today. Crawford, born Veronica Crawford on February the 18th, 1952 in Macon, Georgia, had already carved a path through jazz and R&B circuits by this song's release. Rainy Night in Georgia itself predates Crawford's version by over a decade. Tony Joe White, a Louisiana-born singer raised on a cotton farm, penned it in 1967. In a January 17, 2014 interview with music journalist Ray Shasso, White recalled the spark. After high school, he'd moved to Marietta, Georgia, to live with his sister and drive a dump truck for the highway department. Rain meant no work, leaving him indoors with his guitar. Hearing Bobby Gentry's Ode to Billy Joe pushed him to write from life. I know about rainy nights because I spent a lot of rainy nights in Marietta, Georgia, White said. He first recorded it for his 1969 Monument Records album, Continued, a swampy 6-minute rendition with his drawling delivery and sparse guitar. The song found its mass audience through Brooke Benton. The R&B veteran born Benjamin Franklin P. in Camden, South Carolina on September the 19th, 1931, had scored early hits like It's Just a Matter of Time in 1959 and duets with Dinah Washington. But his career had cooled by the late 1960s. Signed to Cotillion Records, an Atlantic subsidiary in 1968 by Jerry Wexler, Benton cut the track in November 1969 at Criteria Studios in Miami, produced by Arif Mardin. Session musicians included Billy Carter on organ, Dave Crawford on piano, Cornell Dupree and Jimmy O'Rourke on guitars, Howard Cowett on bass, Tubby Ziegler on drums, and Toots Thielemans on harmonica. Released as a single that December from Benton's comeback album Brooke Benton Today, it topped the Billboard best-selling soul singles chart for 1 week in March 1970, hit number 4 on the Hot 100 for 2 weeks, and number 2 on the Adult Contemporary chart. Certified gold by the RIAA, it sold over 1 million copies and marked Benton's final major US hit. He died in 1988 at 56 from complications from spinal meningitis. Crawford's version, track 2 on Secret Combination, clocks in at 4:21, with string arrangements by Dale Oler and recording by Al Schmidt. She slows it down further, her tone wrapping around the melancholy like a warm blanket. The lyrics open with a drifter's isolation. Hovering by my suitcase, trying to find a warm place to spend the night. Heaven's rains are falling, seems I hear your voice calling. A rainy night in Georgia, a rainy night in Georgia. I believe that it's raining all over the world. I feel that it's raining all over the world. For Crawford, it bridged her jazz leanings and pop appeal. Part of a run that included film work like the 1980 soundtrack theme People Alone for the Competition. By 1986, she'd hit the UK top 10 again with Almaz. But Secret Combination remains her commercial peak. with the album charting for 60 weeks in the UK. Benton's velvet baritone set the template. Crawford's rendition adds a jazz-inflected ache, fitting for a voice that navigated clubs from Cincinnati to Saint-Tropez. In the summer of 1981, as London's air buzzed with new wave's restless energy, Classixs Nouveaux released Inside Outside, a single that crystallised their blend of punk's raw roots and the sleek synth-tinged sound of the emerging decade. Dropped on July the 24th by Liberty Records, the track, penned by frontman Sal Solo and bassist Mick Sweeney, hit the UK singles chart at number 50, peaking only at number 45, with its fretless bass and inverted lyrical hook capturing a band on the cusp of wider recognition. This was Classixs Nouveaux in their formative stride, a group born from punk's ashes, now carving a niche amid the new romantic swirl. To understand Inside Outside, we must trace the band's origins, their early steps, and the context that shaped this fleeting but vivid moment in their arc. This is track 10 today. The band took shape in early 1979, rising from the debris of X-Ray Specs, the punk outfit known for polystyrene's fierce vocals. Guitarist Jack Airport and drummer BP Herding, both Specs veterans, placed a Melody Maker ad seeking a new frontman. Sal Solo, born Sam Smith in Hatfield and previously of a band called The News, answered. Joined by bassist Mick Sweeney and guitarist Gary Steadman, Classixs Nouveaux coalesced with a sound that fused punk's urgency with a theatrical edge. Solo's shaved head and stark quasi-ecclesiastical stage outfits, robes, capes, set them visually apart, aligning them loosely with the new romantic scene at clubs like Blitz, though their guitar-heavy approach kept them distinct from synth purists like Ultravox. Their early days were scrappy. In 1980, they recorded 4 tracks for Capitol Radio, where DJ Nicky Horn spun Solo's Robots Dance. Released as their debut single on August the 15th, 1980 via their own ESP label, the 7-inch back with 623 gained minor airplay but no chart traction. Still, it marked their shift towards a sound blending jagged guitars, Sweeney's innovative fretless bass and embryonic synth layers, a rarity in pop then, as fretless basses were mostly a jazz fusion hallmark. By 1981, they signed with Liberty, a subsidiary of EMI signalling a leap towards broader reach. That year, they toured as part of Solo's brainchild, the 2002 Review, showcasing new wave acts like Theatre of Hate at venues like Hammersmith Palais, building a live reputation. Their debut album, Night People, landed on May the 11th, 1981, produced by the band with Clive Langer and Alan Winstanley, who'd shaped sounds for Deaf School and Madness. In the UK, it hit number 66 on the albums chart. Internationally, as Classixs Nouveaux, it tweaked tracks and artwork for markets like the US. The album's singles, Guilty and Tokyo, set the stage for Inside Outside. Guilty, out in March, reached number 65 in the UK, but climbed to number 20 in Sweden and number 25 in Australia, its monochrome video catching early MTV spins. Tokyo, released in June, stalled at number 68 in the UK. These tracks, both Solo Sweeney compositions, leaned on angular riffs and Solo's baritone, hinting at the drama that would define Inside Outside. The single itself arrived with a 12-inch version, adding an instrumental B-side. Its taut production highlighted Sweeney's fretless bass, a slinking pulse under Airport's guitars, his final major contribution before leaving. The UK singles chart saw it enter at number 50 on August the 9th and climbed to number 45 by August the 16th and then slipped to number 49 by August the 23rd, exiting after 5 weeks. Its lyrics channel the era's unease, urban grit Thatcher's economic shadow, with Solo singing As I Stop and Look Around Me, what was once the best has been surpassed, like a memory. What was once the first is now the last. So it seems to me, always chasing ideas when they are forever changing. Inside, outside, outside, inside, inside, outside. The chorus flips phrasing mirrors the song's theme of disorientation. Solo's voice steady yet urgent over a driving beat. In a 2021 Cherry Red box set interview, Solo reflected it was about that trapped feeling where inside and outside blur, punk's anger turning inward. Langer and Winstanley's production kept synth subtle, letting the band's live energy shine. Sounds magazine called it sleek with a fretless glide that pulls you in. Though it didn't crack the UK's top 40, Inside Outside bolstered their European cult following, where Night People tracks thrived in clubs. The band's theatricality, Solo's robes, their stark aesthetic drew Japan comparisons, but their punk roots grounded them. Post-release, Gary Steadman left, replaced by Jimmy Suman, hinting at their shift toward 1982's glossier La Verite. Inside Outside remains a snapshot of Classix Nouveaux at a key moment, not yet pop stars, but no longer just punk's offspring, caught between worlds. Now, let's do a one-hit wonder, a memorable one-hit wonder, one which almost definitely wouldn't get made today, but which every single one of us knew growing up and cast images of Japan. In August 1981, a synth-driven earworm called Japanese Boy by Aneka stormed the UK charts. Its pentatonic riff and a tale of a jilted lover captivated listeners. Behind the single was Mary Sandeman, unbelievably a 33-year-old Scottish folk singer whose reinvention as a kimono-clad pop star marked a sharp pivot from her Gaelic roots. This is track 11. Born on November the 20th, 1947 in Edinburgh, Sandeman grew up steeped in Scotland's traditional music, singing in Gaelic and English. By her late 20s, she had won a gold medal at the Mod Scotland's premier Gaelic music festival and joined the Scottish Fiddle Orchestra as a soprano. Her 1979 debut album, introducing Mary Sandeman, featured tracks like A Fond Kiss, showcasing her clear voice over centuries-old melodies. But in 1981, craving a pop breakthrough, she collaborated with songwriter Bob Heatley and producer Neil Ross to craft a hit that would both ride and reflect the era's fascination with Japanese culture while stumbling into its stereotypes. Sandeman's folk career had been niche but respected. She performed at Highland gatherings, her repertoire drawn from oral traditions and Burns poetry. Her voice, described in a 1980 Scotsman review as crystalline yet warm, suited the intimacy of folk venues. Yet, the pop landscape of 1981, dominated by synth pop and new wave, demanded something bolder. Heatley, fresh off writing for the Head Boys, told authors John Cutner and Spencer Lee in 1,000 UK #1 hits in 2011, quote, "Mary said she'd love to try pop. I pieced Japanese Boy from bits of old demos, a chorus here, verses there. Ross layered on syndrums and a pseudo-Asian riff, evoking the pentatonic scales often tied to East Asian music. Hansa Records, a Berlin label, initially rejected the demo multiple times. When they relented, Sandeman needed a new persona. Flipping through an Edinburgh phone book, the team landed on Aneka, tweaked to Aneka to echo her surname. Promo shoots and Top of the Pops appearances saw her in a kimono and wig, styled as a geisha, a look that leaned heavily on exoticism. Released on July the 17th, 1981 as a 7-inch single with A Fond Kiss as its B-side, Japanese Boy debuted at number 60 on the UK singles chart on August the 9th, and it rocketed to number 1 by September the 6th, toppling Shakin' Stevens' Green Door, and it held the top spot for 1 week. With 14 weeks on the chart and nearly 500,000 copies sold, it trailed only Kim Wilde's Kids in America among solo female hits that year. Europe embraced it, number 1 in Sweden, Belgium and Switzerland, top 10 in Germany, Ireland and the Netherlands. Hansa celebrated their first British chart topper. Japan, however, rejected it. Sandeman later recalled the Tokyo office dismissing the melody as too Chinese, highlighting its cultural imprecision. The early 80s saw a Western obsession with Japan, driven by its economic surge, Toyota and Sony reshaping markets, and cultural exports like anime and samurai films. UK pop reflected this. Japan's tin drum in 1981 wove oriental motifs into new wave, while the Yellow Magic Orchestra's techno beats influenced synth pop. Yet those nods often slipped into caricature. Kimonos, geishas, and pentatonic hooks became shorthand for an exoticized East, echoing Edward Said's critique of Orientalism as a Western lens casting Asia as passive and mysterious. Aneka's geisha imagery fit this mould, a Scottish singer playing a role that flattened Japanese identity into a marketable trope. Contemporary reviews like those in NME called it chinoiserie pop, but sidestepped deeper critique. It was, after all, a disposable hit. Today, it's seen as cultural appropriation, a relic of an era less attuned to such sensibilities. The lyrics, "Mister, can you tell me where my lover's gone? He's a Japanese boy. I woke up one morning and my love was gone. Oh, my Japanese boy. Oh, I miss my Japanese boy." The chorus loops, a catchy cry of abandonment with verses noting daily inquiries about the vanished partner. The title alone carries the cultural weight with no lyrical depth to justify it. Aneka's self-titled album followed in October 1981, mixing synth-pop with ballads in her natural voice, but it missed the top 40. Singles like Little Lady adopted a flapper aesthetic, and Oh Shooby Doo Doo Lang, name-dropping McCartney and Wonder, gained European airplay but flopped at home. By 1984's Rose Rose I Love You, a reimagined Scottish traditional, the Aneka experiment ended. Sandeman returned to Gaelic performances, collaborating on projects like Mozart's arias translated into Scots for radio. She retired from recording in the 1990s, later declining a 2006 Channel 4 reunion for Bring Back One-Hit Wonders. Japanese Boy lingers in Grand Theft Auto, Vice City and retro playlists. Its sim drum beat, a snapshot of 1981's blend of curiosity and cliché. For Sandeman, it was a fleeting detour from Highland stages to pop spotlight and back again. For the rest of us, it captured our imagination of a faraway place and culture. For track 12 today, the last time we left UB40 with The Earth Dies Screaming, way back in episode 15, it was a haunting track from their 1980 debut album Signing Off that captured the despair of urban decay in Birmingham with its grinding reggae rhythm and lyrics about poisoned skies and collapsing factories. That song set the stage for the band's early work, rooted in the industrial Midlands, where unemployment was climbing past 5% when the group, named after the unemployment benefit form UB40, formed in late 1978. The lineup, a mix of English, Irish, Jamaican, Scottish and Yemeni heritage, included vocalist Ali Campbell on Astro, bassist Earl Faulkner, guitarist Robin Campbell, drummer Jim Brown, keyboardist Michael Virtue, saxophonist Brian Travers, and percussionist Norman Hassan. This diverse crew now turned their gaze to the worsening economic crisis with the single 1 in 10, a stark reflection on unemployment that we'll explore now. Press play. By the summer of 1981, the economic picture had darkened further. The UK jobless rate had surged beyond 9%, hitting 9.6 in the West Midlands, where factories shuttered and dole queues lengthened under economic uncertainty. It was against this backdrop that UB40 released 1 in 10 on July the 31st, 1981, as the lead single from their second album, Present Arms. The track, collectively written by the band, draws its title directly from those local statistics. 1 in 10 workers claiming benefits. Peaking at number 7 on the UK singles chart after entering on August the 8th, it spent 10 weeks in the top 100, marking the band's fourth top 10 hit, following Food for Thought, King and The Earth Dies Screaming. The song opens with a steady chugging reggae beat, Travers' saxophone weaving a mournful line through the verses. Ali Campbell's lead vocal delivers the chorus in a measured baritone. I am a 1 in 10, a number on a list. I am a 1 in 10, even though I don't exist. Nobody knows me, but I'm always there. A statistic, a reminder of a world that doesn't care. Those lines, repeated after each verse, frame the song as a litany of the overlooked. The first verse paints the immediate toll. My arms enfold the dole queue, malnutrition dulls my hair. My eyes are black and lifeless with an underprivileged stare. I'm the beggar on the corner, no one will spare a dime. I'm the child that never learns to read because no one spared the time. What follows is a catalogue of broader societal fractures, each I embodying a different facet of neglect. I'm the murderer and the victim, the licence with the gun. I'm a sad and bruised old lady in an alley in a slum. I'm a middle-aged businessman with chronic heart disease. I'm another teenage suicide in a street that has no trees. The imagery shifts to global inequities. I'm a starving third world mother, a refugee without a home. I'm a housewife hooked on Valium. I'm a pensioner alone. I'm a cancer-ridden spectre covering the earth. I'm another hungry baby. I'm an accident of birth. Produced by the band alongside Ray Faulkner, the arrangement keeps the focus on the words, with Virtue's keyboards adding subtle dub echoes and Hassan's percussion maintaining a pulse that feels both drudging and inexorable. In a 2016 interview, drummer Jim Brown reflected on the song's creation during that turbulent period. Signing Off was still in the charts when the second album came out in the summer of 1981, and while UB40 were arguably more professional, harder even, the spirit remained. So go on then, Jimmy. Who was responsible for the words in 1 and 10? Not least, nobody knows me, but I'm always there. Brown's question loops back to the collective effort, but the track's potency lies in its refusal to personalise suffering. It's everyone, reduced to data. As the band noted in their official history on UB40.global, 1 in 10 became an anthem of the British protest movement, echoing Bob Marley and Peter Tosh, while tying into the race riots that erupted in Brixton, Handsworth and Toxteth that same summer. This grounded realism stands in sharp relief to the escapism offered by contemporaries like Duran Duran, fellow Brummies who shared rehearsal spaces at Birmingham's Run Runner Club but pursued a different path. Duran Duran's self-titled debut album arrived in June 1981, spawning singles like Planet Earth and Girls on Film, which celebrated glossy glamour and fleeting encounters. Drummer Roger Taylor later described the divide in the Classic Pop magazine feature. We were like in a parallel universe to UB40. We were obviously from the same city and started around the same time. They actually used to rehearse next door to us. They were in one room singing about being on the dole and how miserable it was in Birmingham, and we were in the other room singing about Girls on Film and Rio, completely different subject matter. We had this aspirational view of the world, and theirs was very earthy and about Birmingham and where they were from. Where UB40 documented the queue at the job centre, Duran Duran evoked yacht parties and magazine spreads. This contrast wasn't just stylistic, it mirrored a cultural split in 1981 Britain. One band staring down the recession's face, the other looking forward to brighter horizons. 1 in 10 endured beyond its chart run, remixed by 808 State in 1990 as an early mashup that charted at number 8, superimposing Campbell's vocals and Travers' sax over electronic beats. The original, though, remains a fixture in UB40's catalogue, which has sold over 100 million records worldwide. In the band's words from their history page, it addressed the UK's record number of unemployed, a reminder that persists as economic cycles turn. In the haze of a Bahamas studio break from their first US tour, a little-known Irish band called U2 cut the track Fire in April 1981 at Compass Point Studios, a song that would become their initial foothold on the British charts. Released as a single on July the 27th that year by Island Records, it peaked at number 35 on August the 29th, spending a total of 5 weeks in the top 75. This is track 13 today, our final song on Playlist 27. Produced by Steve Lillywhite, who had helmed their debut album Boy the previous October, Fire emerged from sessions marked by improvisation after Bono lost a suitcase full of lyrics during a Portland, Oregon show on March the 22nd, 1981. The band, then 21 or 22 years old, had formed 5 years earlier in Dublin's Mount Temple Comprehensive School, where 14-year-old drummer Larry Mullen Jr. posted a notice seeking musicians for what started as feedback, then became the hype, before settling on U2, a name suggested by a friend, evoking the spy plane or something innocuous enough to avoid pretension. The lineup clicked early. Paul Hewson, born May the 10th, 1960 in Dublin, took the stage name Bono Vox from a hearing aid shop sign, his voice already carrying the raw edge. David Howell Evans, The Edge, born August the 8th, 1961 in England, but raised in Ireland, wielded a guitar tone shaped by a damaged pickup that gave his playing its signature chime. Adam Clayton, born March the 13th, 1960 in England and arriving in Dublin at 4 years old, provided bass lines learned mostly by ear. Mullen, born October the 31st, 1961, supplied the drive on drums, having started on piano but switching after seeing the Bay City Rollers on TV. By 1978, after Mullen's ad drew 8 respondents, including future members, they trimmed to a core 4, practicing in kitchens and living rooms amid the punk surge of the Sex Pistols and the Clash, though their sound leaned towards anthemic post-punk rather than outright rebellion. A 3-song EP, U2-3, featured Out of Control, Stories for Boys and Boy Girl. It sold well locally on CBS Ireland in September 1979, hitting number 1 on the Irish charts and earning airplay on RTE radio. Journalist Bill Graham from Hot Press magazine spotted their potential in early gigs at Dublin's Project Arts Centre, introducing them to manager Paul McGuinness, who remained with the band until 2013. McGuinness secured a deal with Island Records after a pivotal London showcase in 1979, where Chris Blackwell signed them on the spot. Their debut Boy arrived on October the 20th, 1980, with Lillywhite capturing 11 tracks in 18 days at Windmill Lane Studios in Dublin, including I Will Follow, which drew from Bono's loss of his mother Irene to a cerebral aneurysm during his adolescence. The album's themes circled adolescent turmoil, sexuality, mortality, and peaked at number 52 in the UK and number 63 in the US, supported by the Boy Tour's 78 dates across Europe and America, where crowds grew from dozens to thousands. As Boy rapped, the band eyed a sophomore effort, but spiritual currents pulled them inward. Bono, The Edge and Mullen joined the Shalom Fellowship, a charismatic Christian group in Dublin, prompting doubts about rock successes clashing with faith. Bono and The Edge nearly quit before recommitting to the band over the group. Fire originated during Boy sessions as Saturday Night, an unfinished riff that hid as a 30-second instrumental ghost track after Shadows and Tall Trees on some vinyl pressings of the album. Reworked for October, it shifted from youthful angst to apocalyptic imagery, fitting the record's overt religious bent. Recorded apart from the bulk of October's Dublin sessions, Fire clocked in at 3 minutes and 52, backed on the 7-inch single by Jay Swallow, a studio jam which slowed drums from another track, underpinning a new riff. Lyrically, Bono improvised under pressure, evoking biblical fire, perhaps the burning bush or judgment, with lines like calling, calling, the sun is burning black in the first verse, building to a chorus of inner turmoil. But there's a fire inside and I'm falling over. There's a fire in me. When I call out, I built a fire, fire, I'm going home. The Edge later reflected in the band's 2006 autobiography, U2 by U2. The problem was it was high in potential, but actually not very high on content, placing it amongst tracks they revisited critically. Performed live first on May the 27th, 1981, at the Danceteria in New York, it anchored sets through the October tour, which opened for Thin Lizzy at Slane Castle on August the 16th, 1981, a gig The Edge deemed one of their lowest points amid technical woes and self-doubt. The single's UK chart entry secured U2's debut on Top of the Pops, taped August the 20th, 1981, where they mimed to the record amid flashing lights and a synthetic crowd, Bono's intensity clashing with the show's pop sheen. Though it dropped after its peak, Fire bridged Boy's energy to October's Introspection, released October the 12th, 1981, which debuted at number 11 in the UK but struggled elsewhere, its sound a departure from punk's snarl. In those early days, U2 gigs drew praise for ambition and Bono's stage presence, even if polish lagged. Bill Graham noted in Hot Press their potential despite lacking finesse. By late 1981, with Gloria as the next single and MTV airing its video, their first on the channel, they edged towards the global stage that War would claim in 1983. So there we have it, playlist 27 done and dusted. So what's coming up on playlist 28? Well, the entire playlist is another monster. But in the first half alone, we get more Human League, more Genesis, more Stevie Nicks, but we also introduce modern romance, Simple Minds and Dollar to the picture as the 80s get better and better by the song. So do join us then. Until next time, take care.